Good afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club of Fort Worth. Happy New Year, everyone. Today we start our meeting with an invocation by Brad Nowlin, therapist, Fort Worth Counseling Center, followed by the national anthem played by Wesley Gentle, President and Executive Director, Arts Fort Worth. Brad?
Thank you, President Ann. God of wisdom and new beginnings, as we enter this new year, guide our club to serve with clarity, courage, and compassion. May we all think, say, and do pass the four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Bless our plans for 2026, that our fellowship would grow stronger, our service reach farther, and our actions reflect these ideals in our community and our world. Amen.
Thank you, Brad and Wesley. Here to welcome our guest is Joe Michaels, and we're pleased to have you here. Joe?
Good afternoon. We are indeed very, very fortunate today to have a wide variety of guests that are here with us. So as I call your name, if you would please stand. Mike Herman has brought Victoria Tyhernia. Victoria? Mike also brought Bill Weston. Bill? Mike also brought Joseph Austin. Joe, glad to have you with us. Howard Altschuler, who is a partner at Weaver, a certified public accountant, has brought Lewis Brown. Lewis? Michelle Krim brought Dr. Katie Lazarovich. Doctor? Right here. Dr. Cheryl Harding has brought David Farrell. David? Over here. Dr. Harding continues to bring Bonnie Laglisi. Laglisi? Laglisi? Well, that's not bad, you know. Linda Lopez brought Joe Cortez. Joe? Linda brought Mike Doyle. Linda brought Christian Soto. Christian? Ed McLean always brings somebody, and he always brings somebody fun and exciting. Today he brought Dr. Brian Chakosky, who is the director of the sales center at Texas Christian University. Doctor? Sue Hall has brought Ian Green. Ian? Then Ben Robertson, who is in private practice in the consulting business, has brought Bree Rays. Bree? And as usual, the Rotary Club of Fort Worth is always proud to have Jason Ellis, the Senior Vice President at Plains Capital Bank, with us today. Jason? Madam President, those are all our guests and visiting Rotarians.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much. It's now time for the four-way test. Written by Rotarian Herbert J. Taylor in 1932, the four-way test is as applicable now as it was 94 years ago. Please join me as we describe the guidelines for how we live, act, and work. Number one, is it the truth? Number two, is it fair to all concerned? Number three, build goodwill and better friendships. And number four, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you. It seems like a long time ago, but we did have a board meeting in December on the 5th. Here are the highlights. A quorum was present and the minutes from the previous meeting were approved, as were the October financial statements. Our club director, Aurora Newberry, gave us an up-to-date membership information report, and we heard a report from the nominating committee. We heard committee reports and highlights, including learning that the total proceeds from the golf tournament would allow us to present a check for $40,000 to James L. West. Yes, and I think they were happy to get it. There was also follow-up on the Fort Worth Police graduation, where Rotary presents a $250 check to the top graduate, the Veterans Day Parade, and the four-way donor initiative. In new business, we discussed the We Care event, committee chair training, which, by the way, is today, and that we would be electing new officers on December 13th, which did happen. Finally, we approved grants that total $88,500 as recommended by the Grants Allocation Committee to 14 different nonprofit organizations here in Tarrant County, and one of those will be presented today. And that's the board report for December. But speaking of awarding grants from Rotary, this is our official last call to be counted as an inaugural four-way donor. Next week, we'll be announcing the total raise, and if you want to be a part of this opportunity to increase what we as a club can give from our local endowments and support Rotary International's programs, please see the sheet on your table that looks just like this. These contributions will enable us to continue to fund projects both locally and internationally. Thank you to those who have already given, and to our member who is matching gifts dollar for dollar. So for every dollar you give, it will be doubled. Thank you. Yes. Well, it's a new year, and there's been a lot of news since our last meeting in December. So here to bring us up to date with all the latest news, and keep in mind this is all tongue-in-cheek, is Rosa Berdeja, Principal Attorney, the Law Office of Rosa Maria Berdeja. Rosa. Thank you.
It's been a tough week for the news, as you all may have noticed, but here we go. Pantone has announced the 2026 color of the year, and it is Cloud Dancer. The company described it as a lofty white that acts as a whisper of calm in a noisy world. Critics immediately expressed dissatisfaction, saying it was too white and boring. Coincidentally, these were also the results of our Public Image Committee survey that was conducted last month. The U.S. is backing off proposed tariffs that threaten to deal a major blow to Italy's pasta industry, reducing duties on several leading producers. This could not have come at a better time than the first 2 weeks of the year, when Americans typically give up carbs as a New Year's resolution, only to pull the elastic waistbands back out by week 3 and head on over to Olive Garden for their never-ending pasta bowl. A Florida man is accused of walking into a meat market in the nude and robbing it while wearing only a mask. When asked why he did it, he stated he wanted to offer his girlfriend something other than just a little sausage. And how about that newly rebranded Trump Kennedy Center? This name change is monumental, as it will elevate the Kennedy Center to new heights and prestige, right up there with Trump Steaks, Trump Vodka, and Trump University. Dallas drivers were furious on New Year's Eve as traffic came to a complete stop on I-35 when drivers tried to watch the fireworks show from the freeway. As opposed to every other day on I-35 in Dallas, when drivers are furious as traffic comes to a complete stop for absolutely no reason at all. The World Cup draw has taken place, and Team USA is slated to face Team Paraguay on June 12th. Team USA coach Pochettino states that this should be an easy win for his team, as he's just brought on Department of Homeland Security Kristi Noem as an assistant coach. She brings with her a winning strategy to have Team Paraguay deported the day before. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting has voted to dissolve. But don't worry, our favorite Sesame Street characters have pivoted and are going to be just fine. Big Bird is selling plasma. Oscar the Grouch has listed his trash can on Airbnb. And Elmo is starting an OnlyFans channel, and you can subscribe for only $4.99 a month. And lastly, President Trump announced that Venezuela would start handing over some of its oil production to the United States following the capture of its president, Nicolas Maduro. He also stated that the U.S. would put temporary leadership in place during the transition. It is rumored that on the short list of potential leaders is none other than P. Diddy, on account of his vast experience with oil. Thank you and Happy New Year.
Thank you, Rosa. Up next is Ed Macklin, Insurance Advisor, Champion Commercial Insurance, with a social committee announcement about the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo. What about it, Ed?
Ann, I'm so glad you asked that. Howdy, folks. Oh, wait, that's for the state fair. Anyway, it is rodeo time. We are very close to getting the final details worked out, including the date. Watch your email. We hope to have something out literally very soon. And for a fun, unique evening of Rotary at the rodeo. We've been hard at work getting this worked out, but it's going to be a blast, just like it has been for the last several years. And this thing is legendary. I can't quite do it the way that guy does, but thank y'all. Back to you, Ann.
Thank you, Ed. And now, it's my pleasure to introduce the chairman of our Grants Allocation Committee, Regina Fata, CEO of the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History, who will be making a grant presentation. Regina.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Ann. And Ann did mention that we had given a number of grants worth almost $90,000. We had almost 40 applications, so we had a great outpouring of requests from the community. We weren't able to give them all something, but another time. But anyways, and thanks to the Grants Committee for helping me make the selection. Really appreciate their support with that. So today, we are providing a $2,500 grant to support Launchpad at the Fort Worth for the Fort Worth Public Library Foundation. The applicant, excuse me. Launchpad is a free college application mentoring program that serves Fort Worth library patrons, school districts, private and charter schools, and homeschool families in Terry County and adjacent areas. Launchpad goes beyond basic guidance, empowering students through intensive essay mentoring that cultivates critical writing and storytelling skills, benefiting them far beyond the college application process. The Launchpad program team works with high schoolers as well as those seeking help applying to graduate, medical, and law schools. And here to accept the checks are Andrea Ash, President and CEO, and Madison Owen, Development Coordinator. Thank you.
Thank you, Regina, and congratulations on the new grant from our club. Is Gina here today? Gina? Okay, well, we will skip that and move right on. It's now my pleasure to introduce past President Fernando Costa, Principal Costa Consulting, who is introducing a new member of Rotary, Fernando and Emily.
Thank you, folks. If you remember hearing Emily Messer when she spoke to our club in March of 2024, or when she spoke to us in August of last year, then you know about the progress that Texas Wesleyan University has been making under her leadership. Emily is super smart. She cares deeply about her students. She's a good listener, which is one of many qualities making her such a great leader. She has one of the best looking families that you'll ever see. And she's a former Rotarian from her time in Georgia and Alabama. In my book, she checks all the boxes except one. She has not been a member of the Rotary Club of Fort Worth. But we're going to fix that. Please welcome Dr. Emily Messer.
Thank you, Fernando. And Fernando is a new member of the Board of Trustees at Texas Wesleyan. So round of applause for him. Or maybe round of applause for me, because I'm so lucky to have him on the board, right? Thank you so much. I am honored to be joining this organization. I've had an opportunity to come and speak a couple of times. And yes, I was a member of the Rome, Georgia Rotary Club, and actually was president-elect and then moved to Alabama, and was a member of the Calhoun County Rotary Club there, and so fortunate and blessed to be joining you all today. When we got here, I said, Fernando, am I supposed to say anything? And he said, oh, you didn't know? And I do have to say, President Ann and Aurora told me when we met, but that was last year. That was back in December, and I didn't remember. But so just a little bit, or something that you may not know about me, right? Fernando already mentioned my family, but my family is my pride and joy. And being president of Texas Wesleyan, I do try to be very professional, but my two children are the reason I do what I do every day. I have two daughters, they're 11 and 14, and then my husband, who when we came to Texas Wesleyan 2.5 years ago, people started calling him the first husband because I'm the first female president, so there had never been a first lady. He quickly said, please don't call me the first husband. It sounds like there will be a second. So Chris Messer is the first gentleman of Texas Wesleyan, and we truly love our time at Texas Wesleyan and our time here in Fort Worth. I feel like we've made a great transition. This is our home now, and we love it. I will share one additional story. When I came to Fort Worth, I had never had cowboy boots or a hat, and I'm from Alabama and Georgia, but you just don't do those things there. And so I get here and I was asked to write in grand entry. And you may remember I shared this at my Rotary presentation back 2004. So I said yes, because I wanted to represent Texas Wesleyan well. Well, I had never sat on a horse before. So in a matter of just a month or so, a few weeks, I had to get boots, a hat, and had to prepare myself to ride a horse in grand entry. And my husband said, well, this is either going to go well or this is going to go viral. But it went well, and I will be riding January 28th for the third time, for my third year since I've been in Fort Worth. So I feel like a true Texan now. But thank you for having me today. Yes.
Thank you, Fernando, and welcome to Rotary, Emily. We're so pleased to have you join the Rotary Club of Fort Worth. It's now time for the main event. Serving as chairman of the day and introducing our guest speaker is Ben Robertson. Ben is the CEO and president, TEI Consulting. Ben, it's all yours.
All right, everybody. If you haven't gotten your dessert yet, ice cream's delicious, cobbler's amazing. But just so that we're clear, when I got the call from Rosa and she said, hey, I need you to talk this Friday, I just assumed it was to drum up support for sponsorships and, people that want to acknowledge other businesses as the Richard M. Knight Awards are out. It's on the end of our program, it's on our thing. So if you haven't considered sponsoring with your company or if you haven't nominated a business, that's there. But that's not why she wanted me to talk. She actually said, I just need you to introduce somebody, and then left it at that. And it was a cold text for a good 3 hours because she likes messing with me. And then I finally said, okay, but who? I mean, sure, I'll do anything with the mic. Y'all all know me enough to know that I'm not shy up here. And she said, well, it's just Jennifer Trevino. We just figured you went through the class, you know her a little bit. And I was like, oh my God, JT? Oh, I got this. And then every single day for the past 2 weeks, she said, did you write what you were gonna say? And I said, I'll get on that. And no, I did not. I did print what we put in the rotograph, and I highlighted really important things that you should know about someone dedicated to service above self. The fact that Jennifer has served on the Association of Leadership Programs Board of Directors, TCU Neely School of Business Management and Leadership, and the Advisory Board, Strategic Planning Committee for United Way here in Tarrant County. By the way, one of the best United Ways in the entire nation. So props to that and all of the people that volunteer with local United Way. She's part of the HWNT, which is our Hispanic Women Network of Texas, another nationally recognized amazing chapter. The list has like 10 more things, and I can't read that far because my glasses are foggy, but she is the epitome of service above self. She is dedicated to the community. I had the pleasure of serving alongside her number 10 years ago. We won't do math, on the City Planning Commission. And that was my first ever city appointment, not hers. And she was very gracious to periodically kick me under the table or send a soft text off record of, we don't do that here. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, don't answer the next person talking. It's fine. The staff will handle it. Got it. Thank you. Lots of guidance. But we're going to have a great session up here. Sarah is going to lead a conversation. She's one of the best interviewer back and forth you could ever ask for. JT is amazing. And so my introduction, and no one told me a time limit, and everyone's staring at me awkwardly, and I'm just having fun with this now. My introduction is for my friend, the Executive Director of Leadership Fort Worth. I am a Leadership Fort Worth alumni of 2017. She is of 2009, served on the board alongside her for 8 years. She is a friend, a mentor, a compatriot. Carla's giving me the hook. Let's hear it for JT, Executive Leader of Leadership Fort Worth, Executive Director.
I don't know how I'm going to follow that. Oh my goodness. I did not expect to be laughing right before I spoke to you all. So thank you so much for having us here at Leadership Fort Worth. It's been now 5 years since I took this role, and I'm just really excited to tell you about what we're doing, what we've done, where we're headed, and actually I'm going to be interviewing Sarah a little bit, so more to come on that. But let me start, before I get into the slides, tell you a little bit more about my Leadership Fort Worth story. So as Ben said, I was a member of the leadership class 2009. That's been a minute ago. I was at the time Chief of Staff at UNT Health Science Center to the President, so working closely with his cabinet, helping with strategic initiatives. I got to be part of the behind the scenes. Hey, Bob Mitchell, you were part of that work too. Behind the scenes work of getting the MD school formed, then transitioning to different leadership. But going through the program, not only did it help me with my leadership skills, trying things out in a way that was safe, and then taking skills and different techniques back to the office, but it also helped me, of course, learn more about Fort Worth. And this is the city that I live and work and play in for now 24 years. And I've had the opportunity to do so many things because of Leadership Fort Worth. At the time, Jan Titsworth, who's over in the audience there, was my program director when I went through the program. The exposure, the things that we learned when I applied for this role, I didn't realize it, but so many of the things that I have done today or in that time was because of Leadership Fort Worth. The people I met, the things I learned, the experience, the exposure, the curiosity, the sparks, all those seeds that were planted. So I'm a testament of what Leadership Fort Worth can do for you. And so before I go any further, I want to ask a quick show of hands. How many Leadership Fort Worth alums do we have in the room? Because I know there's a lot of overlap between us. Great. So I'm talking to a lot of friendly folks. So I won't spend a ton of time on the slides because Aurora has a presentation, and I'm happy for any of you to have the presentation. I want to make sure we have time to talk with Sarah and get some good questions from you all too. So our mission, let's make sure I'm working this right. Okay. Our mission, of course, to educate, empower, and connect diverse leaders who serve as catalysts for a vibrant and sustainable community. Our vision, however, is where it gets into the fun stuff. We want a community where everyone in this room is a leader, but we want everyone around you also to have the opportunity to be a leader and to serve the greater good. Sounds very similar and familiar to what Rotary Club's all about, right? And we do that with a basis of community trusteeship. So we want to make sure that like our physicians, that we take the whole community and hold it in trust, so that when we're thinking about all the decisions we make on a day-to-day basis, whether it's at your kitchen table, your office desk, your neighborhood association meeting, boardrooms, business meetings, whatever it is, all across town, that you're really doing the most good you can for the most people. And so we do that, and that translates into all the folks that we get to impact through all of our programs. So you're also getting a little taste of our annual report that we wrapped up just recently and we'll be pushing out this month. So I wanted to give you a taste of that. But last year, we helped develop 134 leaders across our community and across our different programs. And since 1973, when we graduated our first class, we have well over 4,200 folks that have gone through our programs that we're really, really proud of. So all of you that are here in the room that are alums, thank you for being an alum, whether it was in 2025 or in 1973 or everything in between. You're the part that makes Leadership Fort Worth so special. So a little bit about our programs for those that don't know about it. Last year, we had one of our largest class. Sarah will tell you that's giving her some gray hair for her, but 52 folks in leadership class. That's our 9-month program, the flagship program that starts in September, ends in June, and it really exposes leaders to all different parts of our city, from arts and culture to human needs to healthy communities, education, and that's a booming market, right? And everything in between. And so really takes from a middle manager all the way up to executive level, folks that are already in Fort Worth that know a little bit about what they want to do or have done some things and then want to deepen those roots. Leading edge, 35 young and emerging leaders, several folks in the room today that have been through that program. This program's more for a 6-month program from January through June. So yes, next week we start that next program. It's also one of our largest ones coming in. More focused on some skills that we're hearing from employers that are needed, not only about teamwork and collaboration and consensus building, but also just professional development in general and kind of exposure, of course, to Fort Worth and what the community offers. Leader Kids, this is the one that's near and dear to so many of us. This is our 8th grade program. It's our 2nd oldest program, founded in '96. So that means we're celebrating 30 years of Leader Kids. So we've graduated over 1,200 8th graders since 1996. And we're so proud of the work that these are 8th graders that are oftentimes the quiet leaders that need the extra nudge to succeed. And it's also really to help with that pivotal time to make sure that from a dropout standpoint in high school. They come from Fort Worth ISD Middle Schools, and we're so proud to have a partnership with TCU and their Leadership Center as they help provide TCU students to be mentors to these eighth graders, because let's be honest, we're not as cool as TCU students are for eighth graders, right? So we're very excited about getting that program to the milestone that it's at today. And another program that's experiencing a great milestone that was kind of the brain trust of Harold, my predecessor, as well as Kenneth Barr, former Mayor Kenneth Barr, and others. Leader Prime celebrates 10 years. So this is for CEOs, C-suite executives, to really get to know Fort Worth. It's a crash course, 3-day intensive, because we know CEOs don't have time for a 9-month program. And so we're really excited about having that be highlighted this year too. We'll have a big event in the spring, so you'll hear more about that. So how do we do it all? Here's how we make sure. These are pictures of each of the cohorts. I know it's small on the screen, but you get the idea from a size and a visual standpoint of how many folks we're impacting. Over $32,000 in scholarships. That's both tuition waivers and fellowships for community fellows. Those are folks that went through from class and edge that really are already doing the community work that we want to highlight. So 25 participants total with your donations, your support at our fundraising events that help make that possible. All right. Another new thing that we wanted to kind of keep in mind, we want to make sure that we're exposing people to new places all over Fort Worth. So if you see an area that isn't represented, if you have a place that would host us, let us know. We're always looking to expose our folks to new and exciting places or just different things that they didn't know about. We go to some of our folks that, we've gone to the Kimball Art Museum and some of the other places over years, but there's new places that we try to expose people to as well because they just don't know what they don't know. Signature events, I spoke about fundraising. We have 4 fundraisers a year. We are a small but mighty organization. Our budget's well under $1 million, and we are able to do a lot of this by having these 4 events to help raise dollars to feed back into the program and the mission so that cost is not a burden and a barrier for folks to participate in our programs. As I said, this is the budget, a little bit of the fun stuff, the pie charts, right? So you can get an idea of how much of our budget's focused on the programs. We have great partners, Fidelity Investments, the Martha Supar Trust, the Sid W. Richardson Foundation, the Bryce Memorial Fund, and the Lutauer Educational Trust were some of our partners and funders this last year that really helped make sure that Leader Kids is free to all participants, and that we can have these scholarships that are available to adult programmers as well. Something new this year that we introduced, and I want to highlight our 4 inaugural folks, Dunaway, UTA College of Business, TCU and Texas Health, Harris Southwest Hospital, our Full Circle partners. Not only were they supporting all of our events, but they also had program participants. If you'd like to learn more about that, please see me afterwards. We also want to thank all of our partners across all of our sponsors across all our events. If you don't see your logo there and you'd like to see it there, let me know. Alumni, we have 169 annual members, 65 legacy leaders, and a small but mighty staff of 3 full-time folks and 3 part-time folks now. This is our board of directors that help support me in this work. I'm really fortunate to have a great board from all over Fort Worth. We have foundation business, local community, small business, and everything in between. If you're interested in being on our board and you're an alum, let me know. And last but not least here, one of the biggest highlights of last year was the opportunity to host the Association of Leadership Programs annual conference here in Fort Worth. So over 250 community leadership program professionals, people like me and Sarah, came together in Fort Worth in July. I know, just the best time of year for Fort Worth, right? But we came together and brought people to see what Fort Worth's about, but also learn and grow with a community leadership program. This is when me and my colleagues, this is when our cup gets filled, and we couldn't have done it without the great support and partnership of winning the bid for the proposal with Visit Fort Worth, and support from the Fort Worth Promotion and Development Fund, the Amy G. Carter Foundation, Atmos Energy, and Texas A&M. One of the highlights, some of you may be surprised, we weren't sure how this would work, but we had folks that just loved our welcome reception at Billy Bob's and the chance to do line dancing. So if you're needing an idea for an event, line dancing with out-of-towners is where it's at. to the point where we had some folks from Providence, Rhode Island, had so much fun that they used it to get a bunch of ladies together and they hosted a fundraiser for their local food bank doing line dancing. So there you go. Fort Worth is making an impact even in Providence, Rhode Island. So now I want to turn it over to, in getting a chance to have you meet my partner in crime, or one of my partners in crime, Sarah Fairley Luna. So as she makes her way up here, I'm going to introduce her. So before Sarah joined us, yes, ma'am, come on up, or the stairs. So it's either way, it's totally up to you. You know, you be brave with those heels. She started as a case manager for the refugee services at Catholic Charities, Fort Worth. And following graduate school, she moved overseas. She spent a year living in the monastery in Myanmar and developing and disseminating training curricula for adult learners. And she came back to Fort Worth to support a local political race and bring meaningful and impactful change to her hometown. And she said she'd never work for another nonprofit, and well, never say never. Ha. Sarah really believes in the relationship building is central to leadership, and she brings her expertise. She has so many hats. She's a wife, a mom, a dog mom to 4 dogs. We have this in common. She holds a bachelor's degree in social work from UTA, master's degree in conflict transformation and peace building. Don't we need more of that? I wish I could clone Sarah for that just in and of itself. So please give a warm welcome to Sarah as we talk a little bit more. All right. Okay. I think you're live. She's dangerous with a mic, y'all. Just saying. So, Sarah has been working as the senior program director with me since June of 2021, you know, because I decided to make a pivot and a career change in the midst of the pandemic. So we want to talk to you a little bit about some of the leadership challenges and things that we're seeing from the participants so that you can have some, hopefully some nuggets to think about as you leave today too. So Sarah, tell us a little bit more about what you're hearing from our recent cohorts.
Yeah, well, thank you for having us. One of my favorite people in the world is actually here, my father.
Hey, shout out to Dad.
And the comment that Jennifer had made about never wanting to work for a nonprofit again, I'm pretty sure I actually said that in my interview. So it's shocking that she actually hired me for the role.
Challenge accepted.
One of the things that we have, and we have some recent alums in the room that have come through programs while I've been in this space. What I think that we're seeing a lot more of is the desire to practice critical and core conversations that lead more to solutions. So rather than getting into debate spaces, really practicing those elements of dialogue. With dialogue, it's exploratory. You're trying to find out more about someone else's perspective, someone else's understanding, someone else's lived experience, versus I'm right, and I need to convince you why you need to think like me. So we've seen a lot of that with our leaders across the board. And then also just folks wanting to get out of their professional bubbles, being able to explore who is new to them in the community. And I think another thing that has happened over the course of your time and my time is the shift from, it used to be a lot of, and I know alums are in the room from before our time, which that's great. We're happy to see you. But it's about a 60-40 split of 60% of folks are not originally from Fort Worth. So we are seeing that too, folks moving here and wanting to learn about the city. So I would say those are some things that really stand out from the past 4 cohorts or 4 years that I've been in this space.
So one of the things too I want to talk about is we made a shift in the curriculum. So we have a strengths-based curriculum now. We focus on using strengths finders in leading edge. We use core strengths in leadership class. Can you talk a little bit more about like those enhancements and also some of the things that you do around conflict?
Yes, I love conflict. And when I say that, people assume I'm going to come up and give you a right hook. I'd give you a left hook. But we pivoted to strengths. So we partner with an incredible, she's an alum and now a current board member, to lead trainings during our opening retreat that really focus on a strengths-based approach. How are you motivated? How are you showing up? What motivates you to work and what motivates you within your conflict style? My particular approach, coming from conflict transformation and peace building, has really been around the emphasis of dialogue and getting folks a bit more comfortable with the idea of conflict and removing the stigma of it being either negative or positive. So one way we've done that is, I'm sure some of you remember your service project when you went through where you partner with an organization, and I do really hope that that was such a fruitful and meaningful experience for you. One of the things that we really looked at is how sustainable is that, both for the organization, for the participants, and then really for the staff. So we really made that pivot of, rather than doing a singular service project that's a bit more transactional and we can't monitor the benefit, we've pivoted to a space where folks are in small groups where they're engaging in dialogue. And where that gets a little bit uncomfy is that there is not a select outcome for dialogue. I'm not asking you to solve a problem. We're not asking you to build a framework or create a solution. We're asking you to evaluate and look at your values, your beliefs, your fears, your needs, and then pull that back to a community level. And so we're trying to increase the stamina amongst leaders, because the issues we're all trying to solve and the place we want to take Fort Worth, those areas that we need to focus on and solve are very complex. So they're not going to be solved with a singular service project or project day. So those are some areas. And then back to the strengths of, if you know what you are good at, then you can emphasize that with your team and you'll have a common language so that it builds retention on your team. You can build a team, you can build a task force, you can build a collaboration with folks that are bringing their innate gifts and talents that backfill perhaps an area that you are not the strongest in. Like for me, time management is terrible. So I know I'm not going to ever do that. Don't shake your head.
You talk about strengths, and what is some of the feedback you've gotten from some of our participants? Because I know we've seen folks say, you see these light bulb moments, right, where people's understanding of themselves changes and shifts. They're like, oh, that's why I like to do that kind of work, but I really dread and procrastinate on this kind of thing. Or why this job or this career or this company was so much more enjoyable than XYZ. But what are some of the other things that you've seen or heard from our participants when they find out what their strengths and what their conflict style is?
I need to quit my job. No, yeah, actually that can be true in some cases. No,
we don't endorse that, by the way.
No, what I have heard in just individual conversations is, and I think there's a really great anecdote that you and I both talk about a lot. We had two individuals, one that came through class and one that came through Edge, around the same time. And the individual that came through class was managing the Edge participant, and the Edge participant shared with Jennifer and I, going through this together has really made this individual a better leader, and we heard that actually from the leader themselves. So what we have seen, both in our evaluations and just anecdotally, is that we are trying to provide a space that rarely exists right now in our fast-paced, information-heavy world, is time to reflect and time to really evaluate what it is that you are strong and capable of, And how do you bring that out both in the people you are working with and in the communities that you're serving? So I would say that that has been, over the course of these 4 years as we change, has been one of the greatest identifiers of just that opportunity to pause and reflect and lean more into strengths and stop trying to enhance a skill that I'm just never going to be the 30-minute early person, so I'm just not even going to work on that.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And I appreciate like what you said to our example about the leader that recognized, and it was also their team member that recognized that their leader was a better leader because they were going through the program. Another recent anecdote that I'd like to share along those lines is an assistant city manager mentioned to me that, actually it might have been both of us at the time, Leadership Fort Worth in our programs, it's not just a program, it's not just a course, it's an experience. And hearing her say that, I was like, well, tell me more. And of course, I'm never recording when this stuff happens, you know, you're kicking yourself, you wish I just walk around, can you say that again? But this assistant city manager said, oh my gosh, no, I thought, you know, I'm in this field, I know what I'm doing, da-da-da-da, but it was so much about learning about the city, learning about myself, that reflection, learning about what's going on in the city, really getting a behind the scenes peek and also seeing it from a resident standpoint versus on the city side. So I think that's so important too, and what you're saying about 9 months, because one of the things I talk to employers, you're gonna send someone to a conference. How many times have you gone to a conference yourself, or you send one of your team members? You spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, whatever it is, when you add up the registration, the travel, the hotel, all the things, and it's like an injection, but then they come back, you come back the next week, and does it stick? How much, when you come up all fired up, but how often do you really implement anything that you learned? Versus a program like ours where you have those touch points. You have time to practice, you have time to think about it, time to run into other people in the community, because that's one of the things I always tell folks. Size of a city like ours, 10th largest, right? 1 million people. People that go through our programs where there's 35, 45, 50 folks in their class, it's really hard pressed for them to go anywhere and then in a community event and not run into somebody they know, whether it's a participant that's in their cohort, a speaker, an alum, a staff member from one of the places we visited, all those kinds of things. They're going to know someone, and that's connection, which you all are hearing just like I am. That's one of the things that people are still struggling with. Even 5 years after the pandemic, connection, meaningful relationships. And so those bonds, too, are long and deep. I still have contacts with my 2009 classmates that I can pick up the phone or send off an email or a LinkedIn message and say, hey, I need help with this, and help navigate me, you know? And so why wouldn't we want to support something like that? And especially with your team members, but also across our city, because if the more that we're working together versus just armchair quarterbacking right on social media it can do a lot of things, but it's not going to solve all these problems and all the challenges we have here. And it's so much easier when you sit down for over coffee, lunch, whatever it is, when you have these relationships to figure out how to get things done. One of the other things that we've changed the schedule-wise, we've tried to be more adapted to working parents. So we start, just from an awareness standpoint, at 8:30 with a continental breakfast, coffee, and gathering. We start on time at 9 because Sarah's not in charge of that start time. And then we try to have a non-working lunch, because that one gives people time to check email, step out for a call, run to a lunch meeting if they have to. We try not to, and come back. And then we try to wrap up their full day by 4:30 because, again, pickups and whatnot. And we have found our participants are going to be much more plugged in and aware and present when we have that kind of a structure, because how many of us want to sit still for 8-9 hours, right? So we do that similarly with Edge, where it's a 8:30 get together, 9 o'clock start, and then we wrap up by 2:30 for those folks too, and we tell them, you don't have to go back to work, but you can't stay here, so go do something. Coffee, get with your cohort, if you're doing a service project, what have you, in the community, really fostering, because that's something, all of our evaluations, which Sarah poured over all of the previous year's evaluations the summer before we kicked off in-person programming again. That's the number one thing. People always want more time together. So we try to leave them wanting a little bit more on the content and the resources. And Sarah does an excellent job of bringing pre, post, and all throughout the program. So you never have a shortage of that. But watching time. Okay, we're just still going to go. Anything else you want to add before we open it up to questions for the audience?
I mean, I think that the last thing I would want to say is that, you know, each year that we host a cohort, Jennifer talked about feedback, but there's folks that have offered feedback about this didn't connect with me, this didn't work, I would recommend a different speaker, and we really take that to heart. I think there's probably folks in here that have reached out or emailed me personally to give me feedback, and I deeply appreciate it, because one thing that is incredibly important being a community leadership program are those values of community trusteeship and modeling that. So if there is an opportunity to learn more, we always want to step in and engage in that way. The final thing I'll say just about our programs and community trusteeship, which all the alums, you're going to get a pop quiz after this about the principles of community trusteeship. So, but it really is in alignment with the 4 pillars of Rotary as well. Understanding our past, whether that's as a city, as an organization, acknowledging where we're at, so what is actually going on in our community, and identifying what it is we want to either solve or where we want to go. And then finally, how do we build a city and a community that benefits all community members and does no harm? That's the part that I can't say that anyone has really figured out that final space. And so with us, we really want to demonstrate and model what we want to see in leaders across the city. So I would say that.
Thank you. You kind of hit on something too that I wanted to make sure we mention, is that we all recognize being a leader these days is not easy. You're loved, you're hated, you're critiqued internally, you're critiqued externally, you know, social media, all those kinds of things. And so one of the things I've learned the most from Sarah in the 4.5 years we've had the chance to work together is how to take that feedback in and listen. And, you know, my initial reaction used to be get defensive and let me defend it and tell you all the things. Versus just sit back and listen, take it in, process, because my lived experience is different from Michelle's, from Jason, who's our board president, by the way, Jason Byrne in the back from TCU there. Representing TCU as our board president this year. I'm sure he's counting down the days until his term's done with me, but all that to say, we recognize being a leader is tough these days, you know, and it's also we want to make sure that we can create that space that people still step up to be leaders, right? That's the premise of why our programs were started across the country in the 60s and 70s, was to create that pipeline of leaders that are ready to step up and serve, whether it's a commission, a board, a nonprofit, running for office, neighborhood association, church group, whatever, you name it, right? And so we want to be part of that continuum and getting the feedback, which we get a lot, as Sarah says, but taking that in because we want to model what we're trying to get our leaders in our community to be doing too. So with that, I want to see if anybody has any questions for us. Michelle.
Okay, so a proud 2010 alum, along with Sarah's dad.
Woohoo.
Yeah. So either do you have any thoughts on what's on the horizon for leadership programs overall, having done the conference here last year, but what's the future look like for leadership programs, the good, the bad, what do you see kind of coming up in leadership programs? They're important, but what do you see happening in the future for leadership programs?
Yeah, sure. I think the emphasis on that and what we have seen both with our participants, so this year we exceeded our application pool. We had the largest number of applicants for our leadership class and leading edge program that the organization has seen. So number one, what I can say based on that trend is that folks are wanting to engage more with folks that are outside of their professional space. That's not going anywhere. The other thing is, since our organization has withstood like 52 years or something like that, 52-year math is not math, but 53, thank you, is that community leadership programs across the country and ours have withstood every ebb and flow of every political high and low that this country has seen, I think. So that's the other thing, is there's a consistent element within community leadership programs of, regardless of what's going on or what's tumultuous within the context of politics, folks are still wanting to build connection in their communities. So that's also not going anywhere. The third thing I would say is, I think that there's so much tension around, AI and 5 generations in the workforce. So continuing to build the in-person spaces where you can have reflective, intentional conversation outside of task-oriented, goal-meeting expectations in a professional space. So I would say those 3 things are what make community leadership programs viable and necessary, especially as we look to the trajectory of like the professional future. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I think Sarah hit it really well. The other thing I'd say is we're seeing other companies that haven't necessarily worked with us or sent team members through, like we have our first participant from Amazon, we have Ernst & Young, we have some new companies that are just coming around to, and sometimes we're like, well, how did you find us? Which is a testament to another team member and our marketing communications and social media platforms. So I think that's some of the other things that we're seeing is other companies are looking for ways to promote their folks, develop their folks, but maybe not doing it just internally as well. Alcon is another example of a new company that's come around. So we have time, I think, for one more. Rosie?
Mine is not a question, it's a comment. So for a large part of my life, I was labeled as too impulsive, right? And there was always something that I had to work on. Like, don't be so impulsive, slow down, think it through. And then I went to Leadership Class 2022, and we did the strength test. And I learned that my number 1 skill was activating.
Yeah.
And I learned that this whole time, I saw it as a negative, but that was actually my superpower. And once I stopped trying to improve it and just allowed myself to be who I am, my productivity changed all across the board, not just professionally, but at home, like in relationships, everything. And so going to that class was the best investment that I've ever made in myself. And so I cannot recommend it enough because it really did change my life and just helped me be better in all areas of my life. So thank you. I wanted to share.
Thank you.
That's always good to hear.
Thank you all so much. I know Anna's giving us the hook, so I just want to leave you all with a question, and then we'll turn it over to you officially. As a leader in a position to make decisions on behalf of others, what practices do you rely on to ensure that your decisions enhance the lives of those in the community? Thanks so much for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, Jennifer. Hang on, get your... Thank you, Jennifer and Sarah, for sharing with us the changes in Leadership Fort Worth. For a lot of us in this room, it has been a very important part of our professional development. As you may recall, it is the tradition of the Rotary Club of Fort Worth to make a contribution to Rotary International's Polio Plus program in your honor. Rotarians have been assisting in the fight against polio for over 38 years, providing 3 billion immunizations to children around the world. We appreciate your being here and hope to see you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Before we go, we have just a few announcements. Committee chairs, we are meeting in the Imperial Room just around the corner here on the 12th floor, immediately following our adjournment. It is 2026, and the Richard L. Knight Minority Business Awards are coming up soon. As you know, this is a very special program established by this Rotary Club to recognize outstanding minority businesses. We need your input and help. You can help in many ways, identifying businesses that are eligible for the awards, and this year, identifying young minority professionals who could be our first awardee as the Emerging Minority Professional of the Year, or signing on as a sponsor for the event, which is on April 17th. Varghese Somerset is our presenting sponsor. Your name could be just below theirs. See Rosa or Ben for more information. Now is the time for nominations. So help us recognize some outstanding businesses, because there are a lot of them in Fort Worth. Next week, our speaker is Rick Merrill, the CEO of Cook Children's, and I know you'll want to hear what he has to say. That's it for today. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. We are adjourned.